This week, I'm delighted to be joined by Leigh Hurrell, Director of Indirect Procurement at Entrust. Leigh started his career back in 2004 at BAE Systems before moving into his first management role at Thales. After just over 6 years there, Leigh then moved into his first Head of Procurement role and then on to many other companies, including Surrey Satellite Technology, Onfido, before joining Entrust 18 months ago, where he's been driving global sourcing strategies and helping transform procurement into a strategic enabler, which we'll talk about on today's podcast, as well as many other things. Well, Leigh, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's a pleasure to be here.
And good to see you in person for the first time. We know each other a long time, but I don't think we've actually ever met.
Maybe once or twice
Yeah.
with a beer in hand, I expect.
Yeah, no, good to see you. So I'm going to kick things off with, how did you get into procurement in the first place?
So quite a while ago now, when you cast your mind back, it is many years. So I think it's been about 21 years that I've been in procurement, and was almost my first role outside of coming out of school.
Mhm.
So I finished my A-levels. I didn't know what to do, like many people of that age. And my original plan was get a job, earn some money, go to university. And I took a kind of a gap year, but not a traditional, I'll go and find myself and travel around Asia. It was more about get as many jobs as I can in order to earn the money. And I ended up getting a job at BAE Systems as an advanced apprentice. So advanced means that you have A-levels rather than a school leaver at 16 at a time. So that was a 2-year advanced apprenticeship. Do my rounds, so you do placements. My first placement was in project management. My second placement was in procurement. And they gave me a long list of parts, and I expedited a list of parts to bring in from all around the world, electromechanical parts or electronics. And I kind of fell in love with it because I was on the phone, I was bashing the phone, speaking to lots of people, dealing with lots of vendors, dealing with very tight deadlines. And I just kind of, like most people, fall into procurement. But mine was a bit more of a construction around, these are the different types of roles that exist. Never knew procurement existed while at school, like most people. And as I say, I just kind of fell in love with the role and very much enjoyed it. And I've been in procurement ever since, right? So I must be enjoying it to some degree.
So with the BAE experience then, so it was presumably a lot of the sort of direct buying and presumably subcontract management as well was part of the role, or what was the sort of remit you were doing there?
Yeah, it was really useful for larger organizations. You can really have opportunities to kind of dip in and out of different roles, particularly within procurement. There's lots of different disciplines: direct, indirect, major subcontract management, projects, large bids, that type of thing. And it was very much engineering and manufacturing. So during the course of that, it was quite complex. I was working with extremely smart people, particularly within procurement. I had some very good managers, and they opened up a lot of doors for me. So from one part, I was started as an expediter, to say a phone book, literally a black book, going through that. And then I went and worked on some projects and some bid work for some major projects in the aerospace industry. And then I got into major subcontract management, quite a bit of conflict management as well. So there's all kind of these different feathers that I could add to my cap in an organization the size of BAE Systems. And I just kind of dived into everything that I could. And I had some good managers that opened many doors for me, and I was very fortunate enough to at least have done a good job that they also offered me some bigger and better things after fixing a bunch of problems for them. So yeah, and I was extremely young, naive, and uneducated at that time, and it was a very good 5-6 years that I spent at BAE.
And then you progressed on, obviously, into Thales. So, similar sort of, slightly different industry sectors, but was it still in the direct sort of area, or was it a totally different sort of part of the business that you moved into? Or?
So originally I joined as I think it was a procurement bids and projects manager working on radio communications products. So essentially a different colored box filled full of electronics, again equally as complex, still within the defense industry. So there was a lot of synergy between the two, the products and also the business. But again, I made my decision based upon the people that I met during that interview process. And my manager who hired me is probably one of the best managers I've ever had.
Hmm.
And again, very similar. But after about 12 months, there was another opportunity to go and roll out a brand new ERP system
Hmm.
and to lead the procurement side of rolling out that ERP system.
Mm.
So I got into that project, another feather to the cap to say I've helped deploy, design, and manage a new ERP system for the business. And then after that, I would say 18 months, 2 years secondment to that.
Mhm.
There was a major dispute that needed to be resolved with a major supplier, and they asked me to go and solve that problem. I then went and helped solve that problem.
Mm.
Did that for about 18 months. Um, Once I've solved that problem, they asked me to go and work for corporate, and then I started working on more corporate outsourcing of engineering services. So there's been, I'd say, I was there about 6 years. I probably had 4 major roles
Mhm.
within that organization.
Mm.
So
And I noticed that when obviously I think that's when I first started to sort of get to know you when you were at Thales, but was that a deliberate thing for you to sort of get exposed to different areas? Because that's quite unique, 4 different roles in a 6-year period within a business. So
mm,
clearly you're doing something right. In terms of
yeah.
was that sort of through your own pushing the boundaries of trying to get involved in other projects, other areas, or talk me through sort of how that sort of came
Yeah,
out?
it's quite interesting. I've always been very curious, and I've always been very career driven, and I've always focused on my professional and personal development. And it's
Mm.
just either the way I'm wired, the way I was schooled, the way I was brought up. I don't know,
Mm.
but I'm always looking for opportunities to experience new things. I'm always looking to prove myself, um, and each of these problems that I've identified myself, or I've made very clear to my line management that this is where I am today, this is where I want to be in 2 years, and this is where I want to be in 5 years.
Mm.
I've always had a 10-year plan, a rolling 10-year plan, as a both personally and
Okay.
professionally, and I just look for ways to kind of, let's say, I've mentioned, a new experience, a new feather to the cap to say, I have done this and I did it successfully.
Mm.
So creating opportunities for myself, but also making it very clear to my seniors that if there are any doors to be opened, I would like for you to open them for me.
Mm.
And I will take the opportunity if you present it.
Mm. Where did the 10-year sort of plan come from? Was that something that you've always done, or was that something that you've sort of picked up from other people, or what was?
Um, I would like to say it's because I'm very organized and like to follow a plan, but in reality, I'm probably quite chaotic and very distractible.
Okay.
So probably it's a coping mechanism to
Mm.
say, right, this is where I want to get to. But I think maybe it was from my apprenticeship, where it was very structured.
Mm.
So these are the people that you're going to work for. These are the jobs you're going to do. Maybe that just ingrained in me to say, right, I do need to plan. I need to plan rather than go through my career with no plan whatsoever and leave things to random.
Mm.
Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
maybe it was trained, maybe it's built in. You never know these things.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah.
In terms of your philosophy on relationships and building long lasting relationships, it's something that I'm focusing on a lot on this sort of podcast series around SRM.
Mm.
It's important to any procurement role, but where do you see its value? How are you able to sort of build those long lasting relationships with your suppliers?
Yeah.
What's your
So
tactics?
again, I probably learned very early on, particularly within BAE Systems, um, where you're dealing with vendors, suppliers, and partners who are sole source and single source, right?
Mm.
So they're part of the solution, or they're the only capable vendor within a particular region, or even in the world, that has the capability. So you have no choice but to develop those relationships. If there is conflict,
Mm.
if there is dispute, if you fall out of trust, you still got to work with each other.
Mm.
So the best thing is to, in my view, or that I was taught, is to really invest time and effort into that relationship, particularly with um, sharing long-term strategies,
Mm.
being very clear and concise about your objectives as an organization and sharing those in an appropriate way with them so those suppliers can support you going in that direction.
Mm.
And perhaps through my professional studies through SIPs as well, which helps you really focus on how do you align the relationships and how can you improve them on a continuous basis. And I think that really cemented the fact that sometimes you haven't got a choice to work with people, so you got to make it work. And if it's not working, you have to. And this is something that I've definitely brought forward in my career is to address conflict very early. If there is any ambiguity, you have to clear it up immediately, because if you go too far down the line, it's quite difficult to then circle back and try and repair or to try and solve. So focusing on those relationships is very important. And then you have the transactional ones, which are quite, I want to buy like stationery as an example, right? Buying pens and pencils is like a million different vendors. You can pick and choose those. But it doesn't mean that you play games. You're always looking for a win-win situation, right? They need to make money. We need to make money. Nobody wants a relationship that is in conflict. And you want to be a customer of choice. You have preferred vendors and suppliers, but they also have preferred customers. And they'll do much more for you if you are personable, trustworthy, and easy to do business with. And I find that reciprocal respect and relationship works in 99% of cases.
I think that's key around that. You've also got to allow it to be an easy business to transact with and work with. I think that's quite key. Sometimes there's a barrier there, isn't there, when there's too much due diligence and bureaucracy in organizations. You can't actually get that traction with that supplier. So yeah, it's a good call out, because often that has a restriction, doesn't it, to actually getting the right engagement. If it's too complicated, you're going to switch off, right? You're going to struggle to work them the right way.
Yeah, and it's also just to point out, it's you shouldn't be overly friendly, right? You can be friends, but you want respect more than friendship, right? So respect and trust is the key aspect of those relationships.
The Talent Talks podcast is delighted to be sponsored by Omnia. Omnia is an AI native intake and orchestration platform that lets procurement teams focus on strategy and not systems. It creates a single front door for requests, orchestrates integrated processes across sourcing, approvals, and third-party risk management, is a source of truth for supplier data, and connects every corner of the procurement tech stack with no-code, drag-and-drop workflows. Omnia is trusted with procurement teams such as Spotify, MongoDB, and Synthesia to deliver an amazing experience, time and cost savings, and efficiency. Now let's get back to today's episode of the Talent Talks podcast. So go on to Entrust, seamlessly from Trust to Entrust. Group Procurement Director now there. You went through the acquisition from your previous business. What was that like? Talk me through that process. And you're today Group Procurement role, leading the team. You've got people out in Minnesota, people out in the UK. Tell us about what it's been like to work there and what the experience has been like for you.
It's been it's been extremely busy. So having joined Onfido originally a number of years ago, it was in a very interesting phase of its maturity. So it had been around for a good 10 years, but has been very successful in more recent years. And the growth of that business was exponential. So it was doubling in revenues. They were adding more and more people. Technology stacks got more and more complex. Costs got, I would say, less controlled as focus was on growth, as well as profitability as well, or a path to profitability. And I was asked to join the team to bring more maturity in both processes, tools, and people. It was, I'd say, quite chaotic in the fact that we had to get a lot of the knowledge, all of the knowledge and the documentation and everything else was in the business, but probably in all the wrong places.
Okay.
So we had to look to try and centralize that and try and understand what the key cost drivers were for the business, work with the various budget holders to really get to grips with what are we doing, why are we doing it, and where are we going. So that was a 2-year journey just to kind of get our house in order, get the right people in place, some cultural change in terms of focus on cost controls, contractual management, all the kind of the procurement 101 that I would define it as. So that was leading up to kind of an event of either a company sale or an IPO that may or may not have happened. So really getting to grips with all of those challenges was the primary focus for that business.
Can I ask, when you're in a business which is going through potential IPO or acquisition, does the lens change on where the priorities sit? You don't need to go into specifics, obviously, with Entrust, but just generally, did you find, compared to something like a BAE or a Thales, where you're in this big corporate organization, very different environment? Does it therefore mean the decision making and what they need from you does it slightly differ? Is there a change of focus? How does that sort of look?
Yeah, there are definitely different challenges. One because they're different industries,
Yes, of
for
course.
sure.
Yeah.
But when you look at the maturity of the business, like the Thales and the BAE Systems of the world, I would say everything is best in practice. There is a maturity of the business in terms of the capability of the procurement people as well. There's a lot of investment because the supply chain is so integrated within those types of businesses. And then shifting over to Onfido and Entrust as an example, particularly within the indirect side of the world, is because of the growth element, the primary focus was growth. So how fast can we move? How big can we get? But also doing it in a way that is controlled, both from like a compliance, a supply chain risk perspective, the strict controls around privacy because of the nature of the business was managing like people's personal data, right? It's biometric data and personal information. So you have to go as fast as you can, but also not erode or dilute any due diligence and governance. So you kind of have to change your engine while doing your fastest lap, which I was told a few years ago when I was doing a little bit of automotive work. And it's incredibly challenging to manage expectations of stakeholders because engineers want every single tool possible to allow them to do the best job possible. But you need to temper expectations around budgets. I had a CFO that measured me on the number of complaints I got from my peers that I was either downgrading, resizing contracts, or cancelling the tech stack, as well as the savings, of course. But it was more. He used to measure me on people aren't making enough noise about you getting this under control. So, and then going into the Entrust world, which is a mature business in one case, but also the integration of a very complex business with a very large tech stack and a large indirect cost base as well. And then how do you merge those things together? What's common, what's not? What processes work with each other? What tools can be integrated? As well as every other discipline within the organization. When you break it down, I think we had 24 budget holders and departments that are all trying to do their integration at the same time as you. And we're trying to enable them to integrate the business while changing the tech stack. So you need the flexibility in contracts, but all your vendors want predictability and long-term commitment, and you're trying to balance the costs between all of these different variables in order to best position the business to align. So
how do you go for that prioritization though? Because I guess in the nature of Entrust and the business you've got there, it's all about cybersecurity and the tech stack, to your point, that they're going to be wanting to push. And you've obviously you're wearing your commercial hat as the procurement director to say, well, hang on, we need to also make sure we're being commercial about the decisions we're making. That must be quite a balance when you're getting people saying, let's just, not just generally Entrust, but just generally when business is investing in technology, you're trying to be commercial, they want to invest in tech, you want to do that, but there's finding a balance. How do you prioritize that? How do you sort of balance that?
With great difficulty at times.
Yeah.
I've been incredibly lucky. A lot of the people that I work with from an Onfido perspective, and subsequently on the Entrust side, they are extremely professional, and in the main part, they actually they get it, right? They understand the challenges, and it's about how do you work together in order to do that. Fortunately, I forged a reputation of getting the best deal possible without necessarily compromising the ability of the business to do business. I'm a big advocate of being a partner to those stakeholders without restricting their ability to do their job. Ultimately, you need to understand, where do they want to get to? What is their objective? And then how can we best manage the relationship with those vendors? Understand all the variables from a contractual and commercial sense in order to achieve that objective. Sometimes they conflict, and you need to work out, how do you manage those conflicts? And more often than not, it's an open and transparent discussion with those vendors. They understand your growth path. During that growth phase, a number of those companies grew with us, and our subscriptions, kind of increased as the business increased in size and revenue. So having those open and transparent conversations, we were very quick to understand the levers we could pull in order to meet those objectives. And then it was just about moving the tiles around to get the right picture for the right budget level, right? So more often than not, it was a win-win situation. We kept competitiveness within the supply chain. Vendors will definitely understand that, the biggest lever is that they are in a competitive market, and ensuring that you have all of your options open. So I think open and transparency of communication, both with your internal and your external stakeholders, is paramount to meeting those objectives.
And I guess so they can understand the process you're going through with that transparency. So you're not just trying to sort of play one off the other, or have something on your own terms. You're sharing the process, what you're doing, who you're speaking to. Can be quite a powerful thing. Go on to talent, people. What do you look for in a person when you look to hire? What's worked for you in your career?
I don't look for another me. I always try and build teams where there are complementary skill sets. I look for people's specialisms. I've also hired a lot of people that are outside of the procurement space. I've hired within, and I've hired outside. A lot of juniors.
Yeah.
I feel like I get the most out of building teams where I invest in them, particularly my personal time, and giving them guidance and help shaping those careers. And where you need expertise for particular categories, you look for some experience there, whether there is specialisms for a particular challenge for your organization, but you look for that specific talent. As I say, the complementary skill sets. You don't want the same person in every single role. That's when you're looking at larger teams. When you have a smaller scope of, I can only have one or two people in the team. So do you go for generalists? Do you go for a specialist in a particular area that is a priority for you, with some generalist skills on the back of that? And do they fit the job description? You've got to think very carefully about, what are the priorities that I need to write on a job description. It should be no more than 10 bullet points long, because everyone has in their job description at the end, I will do whatever my boss tells me to do, right? So there is always that line. But you need to be really specific about, what are you looking for? And as I say, normally it's can they deal with conflicts? Can they deal with complex data analytics? Are they able to deal with strong characters and strong stakeholders? Salespeople are very strong characters in the main.
No, we're not.
So what you have to do is are you able to find someone who can resist all the sales tactics and games that get played inevitably? Do they have a strong enough character to be able to influence some very strong opinions internally?
But that's an interesting view there, that it would depend on the maturity and the size of your team, right? To your earlier point, if it's a bigger function like a Thales days for you, you probably could be a bit more category aligned or look at that. But actually, if it's a smaller team, like perhaps at Jankel or some of the other businesses you've worked at, maybe where you are now, you'll need that more generalist, or actually someone that can apply and understand the kind of business that Entrust are, for example, or etc. So yeah, I guess it's different depending on the maturity of the business and the size of your team. Is there a common thread though throughout? I mean, you talked around some of the behaviors there. Is that consistent wherever you've worked when you're hiring? Have you always looked for the same sort of traits or qualities in people?
To a degree, yes.
Has that changed as well over time? From when you first used to hire versus now, is there?
I don't think so.
No.
There are some core values and behaviors that you align to your values as a business, but I look for very authentic people. If like within the first interview, you get to understand whether they're authentic, they're open and transparent, direct with their communication, humble in their achievements as well. So I find I kind of look for characters that have these values and behaviors that you can build upon. Because I think values and behaviors are sometimes things you cannot train. Like how to read a contract, what are the red flags you should be raising in the contract, you can train. If you can train me, you can train anyone. That's how I see it. So I think values and behaviors and character are the key points that I look for. And then the rest we can take care of, irrespective of how far down their career they are.
Okay. The challenges in your current role, what are they? What are you facing at the moment? What's the opportunities where you are?
Yeah, so my current role, pretty much to the day, 18 months since the acquisition and the new role, acquired a very capable team. Couple of vacancies that we filled, new starter coming along very, very soon to kind of add the final piece to the puzzle. The challenges to begin with were the team didn't have a leader for some time, so rudderless is probably the best description, and they wanted someone to bring in that would help bring some structure, set a vision for the team, and set some very clear goals and objectives. What do we want to achieve in the next year? And ultimately, I've put a 3-year plan together to say, right, first year is we need to get everything in order, understand exactly what we're dealing with, where are all the contracts, what are we committed to, why are we committed to it, how long for, what size and shape, as well as building the relationships with all of the stakeholders. So the biggest challenge in the first year is actually the team engaging with the whole of the business. It's a global business with complex stakeholder matrices in place. And we're a dozen people. So when you're dealing with a couple of thousand vendors and a stakeholder list longer than your arm, it's quite a difficult map to navigate. So one of my key metrics is how well engaged are we with the business? So are we involved in an acquisition or not? And we measure that actively. And we set a threshold in terms of value. And up until last month, it was the first time we have been 100% involved in those engagements over that particular value, which is a huge achievement on the team and a real testament to them, because ultimately that is a measure of how well respected they are with their stakeholders. Do they want to work with our team? Yes or no? If the answer to that question is no, they will sidestep you. They will do a deal. They will sign some contracts that may or may not have gone through legal, and certainly not through us. So it's a testament to the fact that they have delivered results. They've delivered on time. It's the right size and shape contract, and it's delivered bottom line savings. So every procurement person has a savings target. I have one. The team have theirs. And interestingly, I don't disseminate that into individual numbers. We win together, lose together on the number, and say
That's important.
this is the number at the end of the year. It doesn't matter if David does half of that and Peter does a little bit of that. If we win together, we lose together. So we're all helping each other. Everyone has very clear boundaries in terms of their responsibilities. They all have very clear goals and objectives. So the challenge has been get everything in order, deliver my savings number, get engaged with the supply chain, and get engaged with our business. Now, this year is all about what changes do we need to make in order to improve professionally and personally. And then hopefully in the third year, we start reaping the rewards and maybe we can take our foot off the pedal just a little bit, but not too much, as my team well know.
Should get one there interviewing. Is that right? Is that what he's like? So reflecting on your career, how have you seen sort of the procurement industry evolve and change, from when you started to now? What are you noticing as been the biggest difference or the biggest evolution in procurement?
With many things in life, things become just much more complex. I've been fortunate enough to work in multiple industries, so there's different challenges for different industries. So the challenges for BAE Systems and Thales from back then probably still exist today. But one thing that is an absolute definite change is the complexity, particularly around technology. There are new companies and new technologies being brought to market continuously. And within the industry I'm working with now, particularly within engineering and product development, is that there are new tools to solve new problems, and new problems that didn't exist 10, 15 years ago. So the complexity of that is managing the supply chain risks. With complexity comes risk, both commercially, from an infosec perspective. You hear daily on the news about cybersecurity incidents. You hear about, I remember risks. Do you remember the horse meat scandal?
Yes.
When was that? 10, 15, longer than we can care to remember. But that is a prime example of supply chains not knowing all of their risks and doing their relevant due diligence and audits or whatever else in order to either manage, mitigate, accept, or avoid those risks. And with technology nowadays, it's cybersecurity is kind of the number one thing. Have you asked all the right questions? Have you really challenged the claims that some of these companies are making, particularly new companies, right? They may not be fully tested within marketplaces. So I have found that we're not just dealing with operational challenges of you deliver on time, it must be to the quality expected, and it needs to be within budget. Those are kind of the three things that you can really screw up on a contract, right, or a vendor engagement. Now it's ESG expectations. It is cybersecurity protocols that you have in place. Do you fully understand them? Are they integrated? Have you challenged them? And if you don't do all of those things, then you open yourselves up to a lot of risk. And you look at Jaguar Land Rover very recently, right? They've been down for how long? A month or so. And that has rippled through the whole automotive industry, that some companies are on their knees and governments have had to step in. But could have anything been done from a supply chain risk management perspective? I suppose the investigations will end up telling whether there was something that was missed or whether it was something internal. So I think the real challenge is complexity, integration of technologies, particularly on the digital side, that there are so many more vulnerabilities within your supply chain. But there will be other businesses where you buy one thing, you sell one thing, right? So it's a nice, straight through, simplistic model. But when you start getting into group-wide, multiple products, digital products as well as physical ones. The complexities of those supply chains broaden, but also deepen in complexity.
Yeah, agreed. And I guess, I look at it with the skill set of procurement professional today. You need to have some level of being, digitally savvy. You need to understand that whether you're working and buying, widgets, or whether you're buying, labor services or whatever it may be, you still need to understand the digital world to a degree. You need to understand the supply base, and go back to the sort of the cyber security side of things and that risk assessment that you put around it. So I think risk is becoming increasingly, like you say, it's been very much globalized, well known globally around supply risk management and some of that sort of challenges that procurement are having more and more. And I guess it's becoming more prominent, isn't it, for every procurement leader's facing that supply chain risk. It's not just in automotive and defense and some of those sectors. It's across all other.
Every single business has those risks.
Yeah.
And it's also important to note that the accountability and the responsibility isn't primarily on the procurement professional. I describe our team as the custodians of the governance process, right? So when engaging with a vendor, who should you be engaging with, but also who within your own business, who are the professionals and the subject matter experts that you have to bring in to be able to really understand those risks. So your InfoSec guys, your compliance team, your privacy team, legal, finance, and sometimes on the customer side, how are they flowing down the requirements from customers, and then how do you embed that as part of your supply chain solution as well? So when you're engaging with vendors, you'll have 13, 14 different people doing that due diligence to some degree. So it's not a position where you are the only one doing the assessment. So you have to make sure that you are the custodian of the governance process, and ensure that those people follow it, keep them accountable, which goes a very long way to managing your cybersecurity risks as well as your ESG type risks as well.
Yeah, and that'll only be further scrutinized and focused on, I think, in the coming years. We're going to finish with a quick fire 5 questions, which I've not prepared you for.
Okay,
so
I'll take a sip.
Take a sip beforehand. First thing that comes to your mind, Leigh. So, first question: are you a morning person or a night owl?
Night owl.
Are you? Okay. Risk taker or planner?
Both.
Oh, okay. I'll let you off that. All right.
You got to understand your risks before you make the plan. And actually, I want to rewind a little bit. I make decisions far too quickly. I often surround myself with people that help me slow down.
You and I are very aligned on that one. What's one book, show, or podcast you've been recommended the most?
The High Performance Podcast by Jake Humphries.
Jake Humphries, yeah, I really like that. Good shout. I listened to that. If you give your younger self one piece of advice in 5 words or less, what would it be?
That is a tough question. Keep going. It'll be fine.
Keep going. It'll be fine. There you go. 5. Nailed it. What's one thing you're curious about right now?
What are my 40s going to be like?
Love it. That's the next phase of your life, is it?
Okay. Next 10-year plan.
Next 10-year plan.
40 to 50. I was 40 a couple of months ago. So 40 to 50, 10-year plan started.
Yeah, love it. We'll watch this space on that. Thank you, Leigh. Really enjoyed that discussion, and great to hear about your journey at Entrust and your career before, and where you see over the next 10-year plan. So hopefully we'll meet before 10 years' time, but looking forward to seeing how the plan rolls out, and good luck with everything at Entrust going into 2026.
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Cheers. A big thanks again to our sponsor, Omnia. If you want to check out more about Omnia, please go to their website, www.omnia, that's omnea.co. Many thanks, and look out for the next episode coming to you soon.